Okay, hello. This is task 3E, and we are group 6, and we will discuss the final video presentation about that we are aware of the cultural differences in our group regarding oriented programs. We will focus on Chinese companies and how the journey of a new employee is there, and like the ways of working, the culture, and maybe some suggestions during the presentation. So can someone start with like
Some information.
characteristics of the Chinese people?
So I have searched some information about the journey of the new employees and some general information about China. The first thing I found is that China is very different than all European countries and also the American countries or parts. And that the work opportunities in China are more easy if you talk like Chinese because there are very less people, Chinese people who speak English, so it is much more easy to communicate or to do business if you talk Chinese. Then I found like 4 points on the internet about Chinese companies and to keep in mind when you start in a Chinese company. First of all, I have successful Chinese entrepreneurs believe that they can enter any line of business. And in the West, the companies don't do like competition and other parts of the business. Like if you do, for example, ballpoint pens or watches, you don't start with something whole different. In China, it's quite common, and they call it building the ecosystem. That's the name of all the competition, and it's like I found an example online of a company who is in real estate, and they started with selling underwear. So it's quite a big difference. Also, the career paths are very different, and they try to get everything out of their career path, and they change a lot. In Belgium, it's also we change after like a month or 2 months, or we stay in the company for 8 9 years, and that's not possible in China. They change after a week if it's not interesting. So that's a big difference. And also they are obsessed with the market share. The Chinese investors and entrepreneurs simply have a much longer horizon or a much longer time for the payoffs in business life or if they have a company. So this was all the information.
Yeah, I have example like good points. I've been traveling to China now and then because we have a lot of customers there and we need to provide on-site support if they have any issues. And example, the bosses in there, it's a very different job culture. And it's very common for a boss to come to talk to you and ask, do you want to go for a drink after work? It's not really a question because everyone has to go if boss wants to go. And no one can leave the bar and they have to keep drinking the same amount as the boss is doing. So it's very common to stay until like 5 a.m. in the bar after workday at 4 and drink the whole night and then be at work again in the morning. So if boss says something, you have to do it. They ask very politely, but it's always in Europe. It would be you have to do this as soon as possible, and in China they ask, could you do it maybe, and it means the same thing.
Wow. Yeah, I also found like Chinese people, if you go like as a new employee to work for a Chinese company, you really have to take into account that Chinese people are very that they are very they strive for perfection. So laziness is a crime, and they don't just work hard. You have to work smart because if you do everything in the right way, you will get to that perfection. And they are very focused on like success, and they have to like sacrifice everything. They will do everything to get like the best results in the in the considered like a small period of time they have to get like the best results of something. So that was like my part of people who have to take that into account if they work for Chinese people.
Yeah, and I want to add something to that, because it's really true that they work hard to achieve personal success in a company level, but on the other hand, Chinese people really care about their society and their family. So what they earn and what they really like to achieve is really something they want to share with their whole family. So competing against each other is not really only for them, for themselves.
I think also that they are very hardworking. They're working almost the whole day and every day of the week, and they are very loyal to. Not they are not loyal to the boss, because I have heard that it's very easy to leave company and then go to another, and there is very. I don't know the word, but many leave the company and then many came in. So there is a lot of you know what I mean.
Yeah, flow of like new employees always.
Yeah. Like that.
But you can talk.
And I think Chinese say always yes. If you try to explain something or give advice, they say always yes, I understand, yes, but actually they don't understand, and it's very difficult to know when they really understand and yes, try to do their best, but they can say no, I can't do this.
But like example for like suggestions to new employees that aren't Chinese, like I guess you have to make like you have to adapt yourself like in a really big way, I guess, because they are very perfectionist. And like I think also Chinese people come like a little bit scary. I guess if I see like Chinese people like in the environment of like a company, they can be like very bossy. So I guess like maybe they won't change, but if they had to change anything, that it would be like the relationship towards their employees, because you see like in Belgium or like definitely in Finland or in the Netherlands, when the hierarchy is like smaller, the work is getting better, so that you aren't afraid of the boss or something. So maybe that's a suggestion for like Chinese companies. I don't know if anyone has like another suggestion.
I think that we also can learn a lot from the Chinese companies, because there is in the Chinese companies they always set unrealistic targets and also numbers that like the representatives have to get at the end of the year. And in Belgium we will set like realistic 15%, for example, and in China they will go for the 100%, which is quite impossible to get. But the Chinese people will get to the 60% and we will stuck at the 15% because it's enough. The boss says 15%, it's enough. So we will stop and don't work further. And in the Chinese companies, they will strive towards these 100% and will get further than we Europeans will. I think so. But they are also a lot more stressed than us. And we are already have a lot of work, I think. But in China, it's another level. So I think that's a suggestion.
Yeah, you really need to adapt to it. It's like, I think work is like, if work is like at 60% importance in Belgium, I can't speak for the Finnish people, it's like they're on 85%, I think. So that's something you need to take into account if you go there.
Yeah. And also like the emotional part, like Chinese people aren't very emotional towards each other. It's always like the blank face, like, okay, you don't see if they are very happy or very sad. So I guess like if you come like an outstander to a Chinese company, you have to take that in your mind. that you don't have to expect that someone will hug you or say like, "Oh, you did great," because they will just say, "Okay, allez, you have to." Yeah. So I guess like people have to remember that if they go there. So yeah. I don't know if there are any other suggestions or that we discussed everything already.
Yeah, I think it's like if you think like going to the Chinese working market, their education system starts already at 4 years old. They start to give like higher university tasks to train them, and they have a like struggle from their whole life on the education system to be the best. There is no second spot, and then it's the same competition continues in a working life. So coming from here and working in China, I think it might be too big cultural gap to simply be able to do, at least very easily.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. But I guess we discussed like everything about moving to a Chinese company. I don't think any one of us will move to a Chinese company. So I guess this assignment is fulfilled also. Okay, bye bye.